Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper, and today I've got a technique for you using the sunflower embossing folder, sunflower 3D embossing folder. So it's one of the thicker ones that gives a nice lot of detail. I'll show you the folder. This is the folder. So you can see it's actually A5 size or C5, whatever you like to call it. So half of an A4 sheet. So I've literally cut an A4 sheet of basic white in half at 14.8, and then I've run it through the embossing folder, and this is what you get. So you can see it is a really big, and just fits in my phone screen, a really big folder, which is great. You get 2 card matte layers out of this. Okay, so this is how it comes out. So this is the raised side. So with Stampin' Up embossing folder, you always run it through with that logo on the front, and you'll notice that this hinged end is let me see if I can get you to see that. Hopefully that's focused okay. It's sort of pointed where the hinge is, and that's to ease it through with your plates on. So for the Stampin' Up stamp cut and emboss machine, you use plate number 1, which is the thick base, and plate number 4, which is the grey plate, and then that should run through your machine. So this is what you actually get out of it, and there is a huge amount of raised detail on there. Now for this technique, I saw this done by EMK Creations, so thank you for the idea. Now what I thought she'd done, because there's music on her video, she doesn't talk over it. So what I thought she'd done at first was inked over the front, so the raised section of the embossing folder. So that's what I did with some Memento, and I used London Fog, which is a grey. In her video, she actually used Tuxedo Black, and I think she called it the Black Ice technique, and I thought, well, that can't be right because she'd coloured over here. Then I realised she hadn't. She'd inked over the back of it. So yeah, of course, because she wanted the background to be inked, not the raised flowers. Okay, so on this one I've started to it's so big it keeps popping out of the screen. I'm going to put it up that way so you can see. So I've started to colour in some of the detail, and because we're using the effectively debossed side, the bit that's raised is the background. So I've gone over that with my London Fog. I have got another one which I will show you the difference in the black. So I've got some sponge daubers here, but you can use a small brush. In fact, for one of my colours, I've got some more sponge daubers somewhere, but I can't find them. So I'm just starting with some old olive, and I'm just picking out the leaves. So you just need to very gently colour in your leaves with the sponge dauber. And I thought if I did the leaves first, then that makes the petals of the flower a little bit more obvious. Now I'm not going to do the whole thing while you're watching me because that would just be boring, but I just wanted to do this side of it just to give you an idea. So you can see that ink goes on really nicely in the debossed sections, but still leaves us that really nice crisp bit. Okay, and then I have got some Daffodil Delight here, and I'm going to bring in a brush for this because the sunflowers are a bit bigger. So I've just got a very small blending brush. This one's actually an eyeshadow brush, I think. But we do sell some small ones. And then I'm just going to come in over the petals with that brush. Now the trick is to not go too far over the edge. Hopefully you can see that. Because you can sort of head into the corners, if that makes sense, with the tip of the brush once you've got most of the colour on. And if you want to build up the colour so it's darker in the middle, obviously just go back over it like you would if you were blending with a brush. So that's that one done there, and we'll just do this one so you can see the top corner. Now obviously the Daffodil Delight is lighter than the Mossy Meadow, so if you find it easier to put in the darker detail at the end, then obviously do it whichever way you find it easier. And you can just build up the layers. Okay, so that's some Mossy Meadow. And then I've got some Calypso Coral. Really needs to be a proper orange, and believe it or not, that's probably the only thing I haven't really got. Ooh, what on earth has happened to my Calypso Coral? I think that pad is on its way out. We'll give it a go on the scrap paper underneath and see what happens. I think that pad's been contaminated. It might just work. I've sort of cleared her. Something's happened to that. That's been put away with water or something on it, I think. Anyway, I'll just do a little bit on the middles there. The new catalogue is due to fall in May, and I happen to know that there is not going to be a new annual catalogue. There are going to be 3 catalogues a year, as well as the online exclusives and the kits, which don't always show, well, don't show in the catalogue. So instead of the annual catalogue that we've got currently, she says reaching for it, which is this one. This one goes up to the end of April this year. Instead of getting a new one of those, I think we're going to have 3 of the smaller, like this spring one that I've got here, which goes up to the end of April as well. We're also going to have a refresh on our in colours. So for those of you that have got the in colours, we get a different set of in colours every 2 years. Well, no, sorry. They last for 2 years. We get a new set every year, but they last for 2 years. So the ones that will be going this time will be the strawberry, Pretty in Pink, Petunia Pop, Peach Pie, Summer Splash and Shy Shamrock, because they were the 24 to 26 colours. And then we had Strawberry Slush, Darling Duckling, Timid Tiger, Cloud Cover and Secret Seed. They will stay. And then we'll get a new set of colours. And I have seen a sneak peek of the new colours. And they're usually done to coordinate so that all 10 of the in colours sort of coordinate with each other. Right, where were we? Back to Daffodil Delight. So I'm just going to do this. So you can see, you can sort of use the brush or the sponge dauber to sort of get in. Because this obviously is the back of a sunflower head. So, and obviously you don't have to stick to factual colours. I've seen a slightly different technique used in the embossing folder where you ink the embossing folder, but I've seen that done with other colours. So you can use your daubers to colour in the embossing folder, then run your paper through it. So if you were going to do that, you would open up your embossing folder, and you can, you don't have field vision, but these bits that are raised, you can ink those up, and then that will push into the colour from the bottom, or you can ink up the top, and then obviously the bits that are feel debossed here will be embossed on it, and the bits that feel embossed here will be debossed on it once you've run it through. But you can go over your embossing folder with the colours on daubers or brushes and then run it through. So there are options to do that, and I might well do that and make that into a card and show you, but we'll see. Well, not that one obviously, but yeah, so basically what we need to do is carry on colouring this in, and I am just going to finish colouring in this top part, because then I can cut it up and make it into a card so you can see. So I'm just finishing colouring in with my Daffodil Delight, and as I said, it's nice to get a bit more colour directly in where the petals hit the middle of the flower, because that is the bit that is naturally a bit darker. Okay, we've got a leaf in there. Okay, right, so I'm just going to close my ink pads up for the minute, because or the green anyway, because we've got all the leaves on that section. I'm going to close up my Daffodil Delight pad, and I'm just going to put a little bit of Calypso Coral into the middle of this sunflower and just pop a little bit in there as well. And as I said, if you want to build up the colour so it's darker, you can add some extra layers. All right, let's close up that calypso coral. Oh, I also know that our ink pads are changing. So from the new release of the ink colours, the new ink colours are not going to come. So these are the old, really old style ink pads. And we push those back and flip. Let me get a newer one down. So from there, we went to these pads, which are thinner, as you can see. And again, they flip up and then you push them down. Well, I'm guessing by the design of the new ones that some people have had problems flipping those. And I know sometimes when they're new, they can be really, really stiff. So the new ink pads are going to be magnetic. So use the ink pad. So once I turn this around, that's the right way up. But obviously, when I close this, the bit with the ink on is the wrong way up, which means that they're always ready to go. And it's still going to be that same principle, that the ink pad will be in the lid. So it will still be upside down once it's closed, but they are going to be magnetic. So they'll be divided in half and you lift the top off. And they're also going to be stackable. So these original ones, these were terrible for stacking. And from there, sorry, I'm just grabbing out my balmy blue again. From there, they went to these ones, which have the little dimples on the back. So they do stack much better. But the new ones, because they're magnetic, will sort of click together, if that makes sense. Right, let's get some, get a trimmer out and we'll cut this in half. So as I said before, this piece of cardstock is half of an A4 sheet. So to cut this down for a matte layer, we're gonna cut it at 10. So I've just got a little tiny bit on that corner that hasn't got anything on it because I didn't go far enough over, but it is just, let me just bring my scrap paper back in again. It is just the edge of a leaf, I think. Yeah, maybe a flower, but anyway, it's a leaf for now. Okay, so that's that one. So let's make this up into a card. So, just thinking about what we can have as our card base. And you could obviously pick any of those colours, but Old Olive is what I've got my hands on right now. So I'll have a piece of that. So I'm just going to cut. So again, to make the card base, we're just cutting the A4 sheet of card in half at 14.8. And then we'll just score at 10.5. I'll be honest, I don't normally score my cards. I just normally fold them, but just so you can see. And then, because when you score, you stretch the fibres with the score line. You fold it over so that this, what was originally the score line, is on the outside because we've already stretched those fibres. All right, so we're going to have to cut this down a little bit because it's a little bit too tall. So we'll think about where we want it, and I'll probably take a little bit off there at the bottom. That needs to be 14.3. So let's just cut a little bit off that. There we go. It's literally that tiny piece. My trimmer. And then that should fit our card nicely. Like that. So I'm just going to bring in some Tombow so I can stick that to my base. And you can see where I inked the other side before I realised that it was the deboss side that had actually been inked. But you could ink the embossed side, but obviously the ink is going to pick up on the detail, whereas we wanted to colour in that detail. So we'll just mount this on our card base. Okay, and that is the beauty of Tombow, especially with embossed panels. Tombow is really good for trying to for gripping. Okay, so that's that nice and flat. And then I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I just noticed that I had got, no, it's dried up. Okay, I just wanted to put a bit of shimmer into that card because it is very, very simple. We've only got one layer, so let me find my Wink of Stella. And I'm just going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella to the middles. And because Wink of Stella is alcohol based, I don't know if you can see, that's it without and that's it with. It darkens down the ink. So we'll just put some, oh, now you can see my Wink of Stella has picked up that Calypso coral ink, which is fine because I've just coloured that in a bit darker. But if you're going from dark to light, you do need to sort of scribble it off a little bit. And I'll just put some down here because it will pick the ink up because it's alcohol based and our inks are water based. There we go. Just get that scribble off. Oops. Okay. So there's our card. So it's a nice, quick and easy card. Now, if we wanted to put a greeting on it, obviously this is an embossing folder. It's not a stamp set, but I have got the Charming Day stamp set here. Let me find the happy birthday. So we've got the happy birthday. Let me just pop that onto a block. Okay, and I think that will look quite nice. Obviously, we can't stamp it directly onto the card because we've got raised and debossed texture. So I'm just having a look to see if I've got the More Messages die here. Just happened to be on my desk. I'm just trying to see if it'll fit onto any of these, but it won't. It's too big. So I'll have to punch that out, I think. So I'm just going to grab a piece of scrap white. Try and have everything prepared, but I didn't this time. So I think I'm just trying to think about what colour we're going to do it. Sorry, I'm normally a bit more planned than this. Right, I think we might go for, I think the Daffodil Delight might blend in too easily. And I'm probably going to put it down here over the green. So I think we will go for the Calypso Coral. Just ink that up. Okay, now you can see I've caught the edges of the stamp because I pressed too hard, so we've got that shadow there, but that's fine because we're going to cut it out. So I am just going to grab my chamois and clean that stamp off because I wanted to show you a tip. So we've got lots and lots of lovely banner punches and dies, banner dies like these. But if you get one that doesn't fit, what you can do is use your stamp and a pencil and very lightly trace around the edges. Now what you should do is do this first before you stamp it, but I've already stamped it, so I've managed to line it up by that shadow I ended up with. Right, so we've been all the way around and I'm just going to grab my snips. And don't worry about the pencil because obviously we can rub out any that I don't end up cutting round. I'm just going to go round. So some people like to just fussy cut their sentiments anyway, but if you are like me and you need a little bit of help with where to cut to make it look a bit more even, and this is a good trick. I'm just going to take that sharp corner off there. Okay, so we've got our shape there. I'm just going to grab an eraser and take out the rest of those pencil lines. Oops, try not to bend it too much. Okay, so I've rubbed our pencil lines out, and I've just noticed that on this end we've got a little bit of ink. So I'm just going to grab my scissors again and just take a sliver off there to get rid of that ink shadow. And just make sure you round off any points. I try and remember to always replace the cap on my snips, otherwise I end up losing them. So let's get rid of that. Losing the cap rather than not the snips. Okay, I'm just going to stick a couple of dimensionals onto the back of that. Okay. Good old thumbnail trick to help your backs lift. I've got my little trusty pot of backs. I'll keep one of these little Tiptree jam pots. Obviously other makes of jam in small glass jars are available. And I put all my backs of all my dimensionals in there to, there you go, you can see it's nearly full. I need to empty it just to avoid them floating around my craft room. Right, and I'll tell you what the other thing we're going to do. I'm just going to ink this just gently. I'm just taking the blending brush just gently round the edge just to get rid of that cut edge. You could ink it a little bit more than that, but I think that's enough. And then that is going to go on our card, so we can either put it up the top here or we can put it down the bottom here. I mean, we could go right across the middle, but that's going to cover a sunflower, so I think actually no, we'll go down the bottom there. So we're going to go down the bottom there, make sure the text is level, and there is our finished card. So nice and quick and easy. Yes, it's a bit messy. Oh, I was just going to show you the difference between the grey and the black, wasn't I? So let me just do that. So this is another one that I've embossed. So this is the raised area. So we need to turn it over to the side that isn't raised. And this is my tuxedo black. So on this one I used London Fog, and as I said, the lady in her video that I saw, let me just bring back this piece of scrap, otherwise I'll get it everywhere, and you literally just wipe the ink pad over like that just to pick up the design of the embossing folder, and you can see it highlights the edges that we've then coloured in. So this then highlights the pattern. Okay, I think we've got it all. You do have to be quite gentle, don't press too hard. So just to show you the difference, this is it in black and this is it in grey. So there's not a huge amount of difference, but I think the grey gives a bit more of a sort of sepia tone, and actually that would be quite nice to do it in a brown actually, which would make it look quite sepia. I don't know that I've got a memento in brown. I think I might have a stays on in brown, but I don't think I've got a memento in brown. But anyway, you could do it in another colour, and the difference is ours are water-based inks and a memento is a pigment ink, I think, dye ink, as opposed to our water-based inks. So that's the black and that's the grey, and you can see where I started colouring it there. So that's it for this video for me. I'm going to carry on colouring in my pieces of embossing folders, and the beauty of this is from one sheet you've got 4 cards with not too much messing about. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll be back with some more soon. Thanks for watching and happy stamping.